want to be very clear. The blame for the murder of our people in Libya and the attacks on our embassies in so many other countries lies solely with those who carried them out, no one else. But it is our responsibility and the responsibility of the President to use America's greatest power to shape history, not to lead from behind, leaving our destiny at the mercy of events. Unfortunately, that's exactly where we find ourselves in the Middle East under President Obama.
That was Mitt Romney criticizing President Obama over foreign policy. And we go now to Sara Murray in Newport News, Virginia, who's traveling with the Romney campaign. Sara, thank you very much for joining us. I know you've got a hectic schedule. This was quite an attack. Tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, the Romney campaign really wanted to lay out what they view as the core difference between their foreign policy and the president's, which is essentially kind of a peace through strength approach that obviously means a big expansion in military spending. And, of course, taking advantage of what they see as a moment of weakness for the president on foreign policy when otherwise he's been pretty strong. And that's, of course, in the wake of these attacks in Libya and in the consulate in Egypt. I think they're really trying to capitalize that to show Governor Romney as a strong leader, even though when you dig into the details and their policies in a lot of these places, they're really not that different.
Now, one thing we know about anyone who's not been president in the U.S., who's been a governor, is that they don't have really foreign policy experience. So it's actually quite a steep hill to climb, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think what you're seeing is an uncharacteristic moment in history where Democrats actually have an edge on foreign policy. People see President Obama as a more credible commander-in-chief than they view Mitt Romney. And like you said, Governor Romney has plenty of economic and business experience, but foreign policy is absolutely not a strength for him. He's gone on a couple foreign trips, but essentially that's it.
Now, we also know that the former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, who was well regarded by both parties, she's said that his speech was full of, quote, platitudes. What did she mean by that, and what's the reaction been?
She's actually voicing a criticism that even members of Governor Romney's own party have put forth. This is his 10th foreign policy speech, basically saying he talks really tough, but he doesn't explain what he would do. And I think you see a little bit of that disconnect when you look at his Middle East policy. He was talking today about how the U.S. needs to be clear that it's going to be supporting these new governments that are sprouting up in the Arab Spring, while at the same time he said we should put kind of conditions on the aid that we're funneling to countries like Egypt, conditions, based on how they structure their governments and stuff, to say, if you don't create a representative democratic government, then we're not going to give you the kind of aid you need. And it's really difficult to try to reconcile these two aims at this moment in time where, things are still evolving on the ground.
Now, there's one of the comments I've read from his speech is that no friend of America will question our commitment to support them. No enemy that attacks America will question our resolve to defeat them. Is that sort of going back to the Reagan era when Ronald Reagan bombed Tripoli when Colonel Gaddafi had downed an airplane over Lockerbie in Scotland?
I do think it's a little bit of that. It's also a little bit of his view that we need to have the strongest military in the world, which of course we already do, but we need to make that even clearer so that no one is even tempted to attack the U.S. or one of its allies because they just know the military is so strong. I mean, there are some questions, of course, about how do you reconcile another $2 trillion in military spending over the next decade with your plans to balance the budget over the next decade. I think these are all outstanding questions for Governor Romney, and this is also what the Obama campaign is pointing to when they say the numbers don't add up and you're not offering enough specifics.
Okay, well, we'll find out over the next few weeks. Thank you very much. Sara Murray with the Wall Street Journal, traveling with the Romney campaign. She's in Newport News, Virginia right now.